All right, well, the Steelers get another big win, this time actually sending the team above 500, something that many didn't think would actually happen, but it does here. This is another episode of Mic Drop, a Steelers post-game edition here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and SteelersNow.com. I'm your host, Mike Asti, and joined alongside by our astute reporter here at the Now Network, Alan Saunders. And Alan, the Steelers get a win, admittedly a win I didn't think was going to happen. I thought the luck would run out. I talked about it last week on last week's post-game show. They were a bit more lucky than good recently, and I thought it'd run out. It doesn't. They get a win, and it's really, as the players talked about after the game, thanks to the defense and how well they continue to play.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote and we made our predictions for this week. You know, I thought that the Rams defense was going to be more than the Steelers offense could handle if they were healthy.
Right.
The Steelers offense was not healthy. They came in missing large parts of their running game. No James Conner, no Benny Snell, no Rosie Nix.
Which was evident last week, even though they won.
Foster. Yeah. So I knew the Steelers weren't going to be able to run the ball. I didn't think the Steelers were going to be able to protect Mason Rudolph, and largely they weren't able to do those things, but they were able to come away with a victory because their defense scored more points than they gave up, or as many points as they gave up. And generally when your defense does that, it turns out okay for you.
Yeah, and Mason Rudolph joked that the defense is playing like the 85 Bears out there, and they can't expect that moving forward, and they do not need to pick it up. Eventually, that's not going to be the norm. Eventually, they will. What I will say to maybe, and normally I'm not the one defending things here, but maybe to defend the offense a little bit, it did appear Mason Rudolph was a little quicker in terms of decision-making. It did appear he was at least hitting the open receivers, not missing them. Still couldn't get Juju involved, but the double coverage was there.
A huge factor in the offense.
Yeah, Juju dropping a big one,
Juju dropped
so
one.
excuses are gone.
Vance McDonald had a drop on third down.
Which never happens.
James Washington had a drop and a fumble.
Right.
I mean, so I don't think you can put all the offensive struggles on Rudolph. And we knew
I think he played much better today than he did last week.
And we knew they weren't going to be able to run the ball. And any time, even when a good offense is forced to be one-dimensional, they're going to struggle. And that's a good defense. That's a really good defense. So, I mean, I actually think, all things considered, I think that the unexcusable things that happen on offense, the safety, the 7 points given away on the fumble at the beginning of the game.
Which I was thinking the whole time, it would be unbelievable if this is what loses them this game.
Yeah, and then the drops, and I don't really think you can put any of those things on Rudolph. I mean, no. So I think some steps forward from the quarterback today. Honestly, even in what is not a statistically impressive game, I thought he played pretty well.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's going to get talked about enough, but I do think there's a significant improvement week to week, especially from last week to this week, in terms of Rudolph listening to the coaches, listening to what teammates are saying, listening maybe to Big Ben on the sideline from what he's telling us, and listening to, probably tuning us out, but media criticism in terms of what we're saying and what he has to do. He's actually doing it. And it's not dynamic, but remember, again, he is a backup quarterback thrown into this. Some do forget that, and the Steelers' offense eventually able to do enough. Now, Juju has the drops, again, doesn't have a big game. Last week, he kept harping on that a win is a win, he doesn't care. I feel like one unsung issue this year, and it was from the offseason, it's how Juju would react to the double coverage, and without having AB there, and they've yet to really have anybody step as the number two. Are you kind of still wondering when the fruit of that is eventually gonna reap? Because they've been winning in spite of it, but it feels like that's ready to hurt them in a playoff run or hurt them to get into the playoffs. At some point, that has to be a big issue.
I mean, I think the development of Deontay Johnson has really helped.
Okay.
Right? When you have three guys out there that are pretty much playing the whole game. I mean, I haven't seen a snap chart yet, but I mean, except for when they go into that jumbo package when number 72 reports it's eligible.
Which eventually I feel like they got to toss one his way. I was thinking maybe fourth quarter when they thought they had it locked up and they still said 72 is eligible. That was going to go to him.
The play action pass on 4th and 1. I mean, that's drawn up for Banner to me.
It's borderline pissing me off at this point. They keep on saying it.
Other than that package, those three guys are all in the game at the same time, and I think the other two are providing legitimate deep threats. They're legitimate. I mean, it's not like there's anything those two guys can't do.
Okay.
And so if Juju's just going to go out there and take coverage and take double teams and leave Johnson and Washington open, I think the Steelers are okay with that. I'm not sure if Juju's okay with that.
Yeah,
but I think the Steelers' offense is okay with that exchange, saying, okay, fine, take Juju away. We'll throw the ball to Vance McDonald. We'll throw the ball to James Washington. We'll throw the ball to Deontay Johnson. And those guys can win if Rudolph can get on the ball. And if they cut down the drops that we saw today, I think it can be a pretty dynamic combination. They have to find, to me, the bigger issue is how hurt is James Conner?
Right.
When is he? I mean, it's a short week. It's only going to be three days of
There's
practice.
no way he's playing that game.
Is he going to play?
There's no way.
Right. So, I mean, the Browns' defense is nothing like the Rams, but they cannot rush. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think Jalen Samuels was somewhere around the neighborhood of 2 yards per
and
carry.
He did a decent amount through the air. He did help Rudolph
you
there.
You can't be at 2 yards per carry in the NFL on the ground. There has to be a more significant run. And this was a game where it's not like the Steelers were chasing. They need to be throwing the ball. This is a game where they easily could have taken over with the run, and also that's the best thing to do when you have a dominant defensive front and you can't pass block them. Get them going the other direction, but they can't. They weren't able to. I think that's the far larger issue for the offense going forward is they have to find a way to run the ball.
And honestly, and maybe this is glass half empty despite a win, I feel like there's no fix to that. Without Conner on the field, and he's had his issues with fumbling the football, but he's been playing so well this year. His injury happened after the best game, arguably, of his football life, literally. And then you see the injury.
Yeah. And Ramon Foster,
there's
too.
no way Jalen Samuels, whoever, no one's going to go in there and give you near what Conner was giving you, and I don't think collectively that's even going to happen. They might do something for the passing game with checkdowns. They're helping Rudolph there, but that's about it. And eventually that may be a problem as well. Now, as we move to the defense here, and the defense almost should get the whole show because they were deserving of this win and really
the offense is like that person that showed up in your group project like on the last day, didn't do anything.
You carry them forward, they get the letter grade.
Just showed up and got an A and didn't do anything to earn it.
Yeah, and somebody else in the group that maybe has done more, sitting there with the staring like, really?
Yeah.
Like that. I feel like that's what maybe Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joe Hayden, Cam Hayward, just saying all the right things. TJ Watt.
Minkah Fitzpatrick has been so good. I mean, it's not just the splash plays where
it's unbelievable. It's historic.
He scores a touchdown, great. I mean, and don't get me wrong, that was a great play. It's way beyond that. He makes every player in that secondary better because he's so dangerous.
Right.
He's so instinctual that he's always around the football. I mean, there was a play watching this fourth quarter. It was on the final Rams drive, and I think it was a play before the interception. He starts the play lined up over the tight end on the left side of the formation, and right before the snap, he turns all the way back to play a deep third safety on the other side of the field, and you can just see Jared Goff like.
You haven't flashed the Troy Polamalu, maybe?
Different kind of player. But
no, right.
He's
ball hawk.
More like just the kind of like a cerebral cover guy that is just in the quarterback's brain and and understands what is going to happen on every play and knows where to go. It's truly unreal. I mean, Mike Tomlin talked after the game about his level of preparation and how impressive he is, and he's saying like he's just as impressive when we go in the meeting room. So it's this is the ball is good. Like he deserves what is happening to him as far as being able to get those splash play opportunities, and that to me seems sustainable. It seems scary. I think Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson had a phenomenal game. Cooper Kupp without a catch. Steven Nelson's been good all year.
Yeah, very underrated.
He's been super underrated. Joe Hayden, I think, is finally healthy again.
He
made some fantastic plays on the ball. A couple diving kind of plays that maybe he just wasn't feeling 100% earlier in the season. You might not have seen. Same injury that Connor's going through, actually, is what he had the AC joint.
And different players, different positions is a bigger deal for Connor to go through it.
Yeah, but I mean, you can see that that's something that affected him for quite a while, and so when we're talking about the running game, I mean that is not going to be. Even when Connor comes back, they may not be getting him 100%. To me, that's the big thing to watch this week as the Steelers get ready for the Browns. Also, Benny Snell would be at the 3 weeks where he was supposed to be back, so I don't know. Maybe we'll see him try to get back to practice.
Yeah, because he's a little bigger of a body. You maybe could think of
course, with the concussion, you never know. But maybe you could see Ramon Foster back. I mean, I saw him here at the game. He looks okay at it. That's it's such an injury where
we aren't doctors and we don't play one here.
I don't know, but I mean, I would think that he'll probably be close. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I mean, I think for our offense, it's got to be personnel. Defenses.
I mean, the defense has literally, and this sounds weird to say because the defense was such a problem, even going to that playoff game against the Jaguars, going into last year, despite all the drama, the defense held that team back from getting into the postseason. The defense has been one of the better defensive units in the league and is getting into some history, certainly Minkah Fitzpatrick in general, what he's doing individually. And speaking on Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's only a second-year player, but you could almost see that the intelligence and how well he's playing, it's almost giving new life to Joe Hayden, who I'm sure, and you talked to him in the offseason, he kept talking about how maybe 1 or 2 more years he wanted the big contract, he wants to win, but he's not going to play forever. Minkah keeps doing this, you're going to hear Joe next year saying, I want to keep going, I want to keep being a part of this. Like, it can give new life to the veteran players.
Yeah.
And motivate them to get back when they aren't healthy. It's doing so much to this team. I will also say, and I was one of the few that was behind this, I feel like he has answered every question and quieted the entire debate on whether that was worth it or not.
I didn't think
the
there was
first round pick, but my argument then and stays now, you're not going to find that impact at that position, which is the need position and was the need position in next year's draft with anyone else. Only a second year, he has tons of control left, little money in terms of the league. It's as we stand, it's one of the better moves in Steelers history. I don't know if that's going to continue.
The Steelers don't do in-season contract extensions, but they also don't trade their first-round draft pick.
No,
so we're in bizarre world anyway. I'd be trying to extend them right now.
Kevin Colbert's in. I don't give a what kind of mode, and it's actually working out for this team. The only, I guess, negative tint on Minkah, and it's nothing to his fault. He made a play. Appeared to me, and I said this immediately, that was textbook. Forward pass attempt. Jared Goff shouldn't have been a fumble.
And also, I think
and the similar play on Rudolph late in the game that actually went the other way.
And I think Washington's touchdown was pretty questionable. I think the Steelers were pretty fortunate.
I did a show on this last week. I don't want to do it every week, but I feel like it was a tough day at the office for the officials.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that. I just think it's when you get those 50-50 calls, and I think that's what really both of those are,
I could argue that Goff, the play was like 70-30.
Yeah,
and, to be fair, and I'm never somebody that makes an excuse for a referee. That did decide the game. I mean, that play did decide this game.
Absolutely.
And if I'm a Rams fan, you have there's no one who really can debate you on Twitter today. I mean, you got screwed. It's going to happen. Every team, it happens every year. The Steelers could argue it as well. But that was really gaudy and obvious. And reviews ran rampant again. It's an annoyance that's never going to leave, and you don't want to use it as an excuse. But
yeah, and I think the Steelers have had their fair share. I mean, you over the course of the season, I think most of that stuff evens out.
Yeah, they lost the review against Seattle. They lose the game by 2 points.
I mean, you get the good and the bad, but I think certainly on the favorable end tonight. I think one thing to me, the only other thing we really need to hit on for sure, though, that stands out in a glaring bad way is the punt return game has to be better.
Right.
I mean, Johnny Hecker is a really good punter. The Rams have great special teams. There's no question about that. Probably the best punt cover unit in the game.
Right.
But they had no room to run on their punt returns. They got multiple penalties on the punt cover team.
So you're defending Switzer a little bit.
I mean,
he might deserve
until the last one where he fields the ball at the 6 and then goes nowhere, which you just cannot do. If you're a punt returner, if you field the ball inside the 10, you must have a return there. If you don't have a return, it cannot happen that you catch the ball at the 6 and get tackled at the 6.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, it just cannot happen. You either let the ball go to the end zone or you catch it and you get up the field. If you only get to the 10, that's fine. You can't be at the 6. Inexcusable, especially from a veteran guy who's been around a while and knows better. I know he's dealing with a back injury, not 100%. Left the game actually right after that play. But in general,
enough for you to switch it.
You put Deontay Johnson in there, who fumbled earlier in the game.
That's what I'm saying.
And I mean, okay, so he ran for 14 yards. But I mean, so if Switzer just goes forward on that play and gets 8, I mean, okay, is 6 more yards worth the risk of a guy who's fumbled a quarter of his touches this year? Like, I don't think so.
Keeping the ball is the main thing. Even if you don't get a return, if I have to pick between no return and losing the football, I need to keep the possession when I have it.
It's incredible to me that they can't find someone who can catch the ball. And Switzer is not being used on offense at all right now.
No, so this is how...
I mean, that's the whole roster spot.
Which is what he said in the offseason. He didn't... What the coaches said, and he admitted, and he echoed, that wasn't going to be all he would make the team for. It's been all he would make the team for. They've done nothing else with him, and they've needed receiver help. He has not clearly got it done.
I think right now
the
decision to keep Switzer instead of Deontay Spencer looks really bad right now at the end of training camp.
Right.
And I think Spencer's done pretty well returning punts for Denver. I think that one
I don't know if it's not like Boswell last year and he's been money this year, but if it's not a little now mental for Switzer. He's a career returner. He's done it since high school.
I also think he was playing hurt tonight, which I get. Guys don't want to be in the press box. We're in the press box. It's not always the most fun.
No, it has its perks though. You had some chicken fingers. Yeah, chicken fingers. That's what it's all about, right?
But
that's what this game was all about.
They have to find a way to block better. If Deontay Johnson's a fast guy, if he's only getting 10 yards, that means there's nobody. The coverage is not there.
No, the coverage for today's game was not there. I don't think you can blame a returner except for the one return. All season,
I don't think it's been there all season. Penalties have been just.
Yeah, and I will digress, and I can do an entire show on that as I did before.
Ridiculous on the number of penalties on their cover teams. They got to find some solutions there.
They're calling every. We've always said for years, and this will segue maybe into another show I'll do throughout the week, that the referees would call. There's holding on every play. There's blocking the back on every return. There's probably PI on every single coverage man-to-man between receiver and corner. That's kind of been the joke, but it's only when the referees call it does it really count. That's even a joke that Deion Sanders and Michael Irvin have said for years. And yet, it feels like this year, they're calling it every time.
On the Steelers. They're not calling it. Go watch a couple other games. It doesn't happen to everybody.
So, I don't know.
The Steelers every
So, it is running rampant. It's almost like an understatement. It is plaguing these games and taking them over, making it harder to watch these games.
Well, yeah, it's really not that difficult to block on a punt team and not hold. It should not be that hard.
Yeah.
It should not be that hard. Blocking in the back is sometimes difficult. But, holding... none of a punt block really involves getting your hands on the guy. You're just getting in the way.
Right.
It's just not. It shouldn't be happening the way it's happening.
Yeah,
they need to find a way. They need to find a solution for that. And they're getting dominated in field position because of
field position. And even though they're creating turnovers, field position, which they never did the last few years either, is killing them and it's taken away.
If it wasn't for the turnovers, the field position would be devastating.
They would have lost both these two games for sure.
Yeah, and Barry, I think, is having a better year than he did last year. He's still not a big leg guy.
Right.
He's not going to go punt the ball 50, 60 yards.
No.
So if you're not getting any yardage on your punt returns, you're losing every exchange by maybe 10, 15 yards. If you get no return, you get a penalty. Maybe it's a 20-yard loss. I think that's certainly a big area of concern. Short week. I don't think there's much time to fix anything on a punt return team.
No. Between
between now and Thursday. It's going to be what it is. Maybe they throw Tony Brooks-James back there. He returned a kick today.
I mean, the Browns are as lowly as they've been this year, and as much as they've been overhyped going into the season, and they almost admit that now. They're coming off a major potential season-turning win that you could say what they want about that team. If they get a win against Pittsburgh, that changes the entire course of conversation around them. So there's tons to play for. The Steelers never blow out the Browns. Even the 0-16 season, they're barely winning the games. So we'll see what happens. The Steelers still have a lot to improve on despite getting luck to turn their way and finally getting these wins. I will get us out of here with this, and I think it's perfect to do this now. They're above 500. If the playoffs started today, they would actually be a part of them, which is interesting from where they were a few weeks ago. So maybe we'll change this as the season goes. We still have a while to go, but I want to get you on record. Do you feel the Steelers, to get your prediction hat on, are they going to somehow get into the postseason? Do you feel that's going to happen?
Yes. I think if right now you give a betting line for the rest of their games, I think they're favored every game until the Ravens.
Okay.
I mean,
and even some games after
they're not going to win. Well, the Ravens are week 17.
Yeah.
But I mean,
the Jets. I thought the Jets were before, but
they're not going to win them all, obviously.
No, for sure.
But they're going to win more than they're going to lose.
They have a winnable schedule. The Jets are on it. The Bengals again. The Ravens, Cleveland coming up
between now and week 17. So that's 11, 12, 13. That's 6 games, 5 games. They're going to win. They're going to win 3, 4 of those.
At least 3. Anything under the 3 is ridiculous.
And I think that's going to put them in I think they're going to be in a place where they're going to be playing Baltimore week 17 for
the division.
For the division. For a playoff game, anyway.
Yeah, I think the division, especially with Lamar Jackson vying for an MVP, might be far gone
the Ravens
now.
I think the Ravens may be able to escape them, but it's going to be they're going to need to win that game to go to the postseason. I think that's where they'll be.
I think the Steelers, like the last few years, at the end of the season, will be in a chance for the postseason. I think the division is far gone, especially since the Ravens playing with house money and already having the one victory over Pittsburgh. their schedule's not. It is a little more difficult, but it's not murderer's row. It's harder than the Steelers.
It's more difficult.
So this is now favorable. They putted away at the beginning of the season. They were unlucky. Now they're getting lucky. Now they're getting better. We'll see what happens. It's certainly not ridiculous to say they find themselves in the postseason. And I will say this too: if they squeak into the postseason, even as a wild card, from where they started, from last season's drama, from the injuries, from everything that's happened,
it's got to be a good year.
Well, it's not only a good year, a successful year, but Mike Tomlin should get some Coach of the Year consideration, which is interesting to say based on the conversation around him this offseason, the last few years. That got to be a conversation if they find out somehow to get there. But we'll see. A lot more to discuss and analyze as we go on with this season. Cleveland's coming up. It's going to be an interesting game, to say the least. The Steelers get the victory. They once again find a way to get the win, which I think is an important thing. They do it thanks to the defense. And find all the coverage throughout the channel there, Pittsburgh Sports Live. Find these shows, my shows, through the Mic Drop section. Click subscribe here. Bottom of the page, little box, make it easier for us to get the content to you. Steelers Now section here on the channel, as well as SteelersNow.com and our family of networks throughout the Pittsburgh Sports Now network. For Alan Saunders, I'm Mike Asti, and that's it from an undisclosed location here at Heinz Field near the press box. We just won't tell you where exactly we are.
Cafeteria.
Yeah, there's